So today's discussion is going to be about, there has been improvements where there's more women in leadership positions, whether it's globally or even in Malaysia. But the question is that enough? What we have today and what's happening, is that going to be enough? So the discussion today is not just about how organizations can create space, how we can make it more equal, but it's also about how each and every one of you can change, transformation, wanting something, in your career, being hungry enough to fight for it, to make a change. So we have to my far right, Serene Chow, a global program director at Catalyst Coach. In her role and beyond, Serene is passionate about building leaders, enabling women to discover their identity and fulfill their life's purpose by being excellent stewards of their finances, talents, and time. I think we can get a lot out of you today, Serene. Next is, we have Natasha, the founder, director of Women in Rail Malaysia and Women in Rail Connect. Natasha is recognized as a female change maker and has contributed tremendously towards sustainable mobility solutions and is an advocate for work-life balance. Nice to have you here, Natasha. Last but certainly not least, Maddie, the founder and CEO of Plus Vibes. I think a lot of you would have heard about Plus Vibes. I have. A mental health solution provider that has won awards, grants, and competitions. She has a long-term vision to focus on educational reform to provide substantial insight into youth's struggle and personal development. So thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Let me start with the first question, but it's for all three of you. One of you can start. As women in leadership yourselves, what have you done in your organizations to help shape environments that support women and encourage leadership among them? Serene, you want to go first?
Sure. You can hear me? Yeah. Leadership is actually not an easy thing. Yeah. My favorite leadership guru said that everything rises and falls on leadership. And that means that, wow, if we don't have a good leader, a civilization can rise and also fall overnight, right? So it can be a very daunting thing when we say, wow, women and leadership, because can I fit those shoes? That's the question that we ask ourselves. So that there can be a lot of doubts and insecurities, all right? And which is why the push and the encouragement of women is so important. Yeah, and of course, we also know that some of us here, or maybe most of us here, could belong to what we call a sandwich generation. What does that mean? You are sandwiched between your elderly parents and taking care of your children, right? And this is actually, and especially if your parents are ill or they are going through stages of health crisis and so on and so forth, you are basically being sandwiched and pressured. And women in this situation, they might be in their early 40s or maybe even late 30s, and that is also when the career is actually booming, right? It's on the rise, right? But then you find that, I now need to take a step back, right? So which is why promoting leadership at this level and how we promote it is also very important because of women's predicament. Yeah, so that's another factor. And of course, we know, right, that because of this, what Wealth of Life Women, of which I'm part of, and how we encourage women to rise up is that we help them to know who they are, what is their ikigai, their life's purpose. Yeah? So that when situations like what I talked about, right, the fear of leadership, the situation of women comes out, they are being supported in that journey by a community of women, in Wealth of Life Women, and also in helping them steward finances. So that's the ecosystem that we are actually provided to help women in that environment of leadership. Yeah, in Wealth of Life Women.
Yeah, so you're talking about, so which means that companies, you can't just push someone to that leadership position. I think it has to kind of, it involves many things that's, in terms of, it's like many aspects to it where oneself has to actually grow into that position as well. Because you can't just push somebody and say, okay, you're going to be the leader and you're going to take that leadership. And yeah, I think a lot of you understand Ikigai, yeah? I think Datin Sri has spoken about it time and time again, so we all are quite well versed what Ikigai means. Natasha?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I pulled out of the workforce and I stayed home for 7 years to look after my children. When my daughter was born, it was decided that my husband and I decided I would stay home. And I ended up staying home for 7 years. And I remember being very disappointed, perhaps ashamed, embarrassed a bit, because all my peers, who are the who's who now of corporate Malaysia, who I went to school with, to university with, were rising. And I'd go for female dinners with friends, and they'd be talking about work, and all I could talk about was probably nappies and, like all that sort of stuff. And I remember feeling very small. But I went back to work, and I worked for a not-for-profit that at that time was happy to have me, and I asked, can I work from home? This was 2009, before work from home was even popular. We didn't even have emails on phones yet, ladies. That's how long ago it was. But I had the kids in kindy from 9 till 12, and I picked them up at 12, home for lunch, afternoon sleep or play, dinner at 6. 6:30 was dinner at 6. 6:30 was mandi. 6:45 was story time. 7 o'clock lights out.
Wow.
I was very strict because I needed to get back to work. And I would have my shower, I'd sit quickly with my husband as he had his dinner, and then I'd start my work till midnight. So, and you said something also very interesting, late 30s, early 40s, because that's when I started to rise. I went back to the workforce, and I started to rise. And I remember sitting in meetings. I was a senior manager when I went back to work for a government agency. I remember sitting in meetings and thinking, my God, this guy's a shit leader. And I'm reminded because now I make sure I'm not like that leader. I make sure that I support where I can. I'm kind. I enable. I mean, if someone says, my maid has run away, I need to go home for the next 2 weeks early to prepare dinner for the family, I say, go. Why should I hold them back? Because I know they will appreciate the gesture and they will work hard when they have to. So there's a lot of give and take with me as a leader, and I'm conscious of the fact that I need to make sure that I create a space for people to be led. That is my responsibility as a leader. So it's a bit tricky. I remember in 2018, on the 3rd of October, my father found out he had cancer. And the person I reported to at the time knew that my father was ill. I didn't give much information. But he came to me one day, or he texted me, can't remember. He says, go with your father when he needs to go to the hospital. And I appreciated that. And there would be morning trips, and I'd be in the office a bit later, 11 o'clock, but I'd do my work. Everything would get done. Anyway, we found out on the 3rd of October he had cancer, and by the 31st October he had died. So in less than a month. So in that 1 month, can you imagine the stress I was under with the hospital visits, mornings, in the evenings, managing everything, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, I was grateful because that male boss that I had was kind. I didn't ask, but he knew the situation I was in. And he said, you just go lah. If HR bising, you tell them to look for me. I said, okay, thank you. So those are the small things that I remember. And I'm conscious of the fact that someone was kind enough to me, was giving, was generous, and I too want to be like that as a leader. And I think it's really important that as you ladies go up that chain, please remember that you have to be conscious as a leader, because Datin Sri, you said something. Just because someone is and I work with engineers, I work in construction. I'm building a rail line, 192-kilometer rail line in Johor, from Gemas to Johor Bahru. So I work with a lot of engineers, ladies, and just because someone is a good engineer doesn't make him a good leader.
Yep.
And even if he is senior, he can be 30, he can be 45. Seniority, age does not make him or her a good leader. So you can be very good at your job, but when you're promoted, you don't know how to manage people. So when you ladies are given the opportunity, and this is a privilege to sit here and talk to you today, but also for you to sit here and listen because you have an employer that cares for you, cares deeply for ensuring your growth, your professional growth is enhanced. But you must be conscious of the fact that you can do a great job every day, but are you a good leader? And you need to be able to create that space for yourself to become that good leader. I remember when I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years, one thing I did every day, religiously, I would read the Star Biz every day. I didn't want to know nothing. I wanted to make sure my brain was in tip-top condition. I wanted to be able to talk to my husband when he comes home from work. I didn't want to be a ditzy blonde. That's really important to me. Intelligence and the initiative to read, to learn is super critical. Last year, I was on medical leave for 3 months. I had a massive problem, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to talk about it, but I was at home for 3 months, and I remember sitting in ICU, and the doctor said, you can't go to work for at least 6 to 8 weeks. It became 11 weeks. And I remember sitting in bed in the ICU thinking, oh my God, what the heck am I going to do every day? And I decided I would have spiritual exercise in the morning, and I would read everything that I could get my hands on about Islam. And in the afternoons, I would have intellectual exercise, because I couldn't physically exercise anymore, which I usually used to do. And my intellectual exercise was to read whatever I could get my hands on. In that 3 months, I only watched one Netflix movie. I didn't watch any, I didn't binge on this stupid, well, actually I like this box sets, whatever, series, whatever. My sisters are talking about, you should watch this, you should watch that. And someone gifted me 2 trashy romance novels. I read one because it was Bridgerton something, and I'd followed the Bridgerton series. I was quite interested, but that book was a complete waste of time. I didn't really like it. And then I was ready with the second book, and I was like, do you really want to read this? Seriously? So I set it aside. I haven't even read it till today. So for me, I'm conscious of the fact that as a good leader, I need to be a step ahead of my peer, my team. The intelligence, the knowledge, the skills, that you can read about everything every day these days. So I want to be the very best possible leader that I can. I have got 3 young girls here. Girls, please stand up. I brought 3 colleagues with me, young girls, because I want them to learn. 1 is an intern and 2 are execs. Okay, you can sit. Thanks. So they came, and I'm delighted to have them. Thank you for the generosity to have them. Thank you.
Wow. The powerful stories are the personal stories that I always believe, And she's so casual about it, and, she's telling us what she's been through, okay, and what it is. She's talking about leaders. I believe that too. Remember, I keep telling you, if you're working long hours in the office, doesn't mean that you are the best, right? Do your work in that timeline, finish it, go home, be with your family. That's what I keep telling my staff. That's what I keep telling my mentees. All right? So quality is not long hours. And I think this is the best that you can hear, is someone saying that, I agree, Natasha, saying that, okay, someone wants to promote you to that leadership level. Yes, you can eye it, but are you ready for it, right? Or do you need more time? You want to take it step by step and not just jump there because somebody is offering that to you. So ultimately, the decisions should be yours, not somebody else telling you, but that also should be in your daily life. You know, don't become a servant, or like serving someone. In an organization, you should be in your space, and you should be proud of who you are and what you're doing, right? Be part of that success of QI. That's what I want to see. And see, I'll keep talking. Floor is yours.
I think it's amazing, the different perspectives, Datin Sri, from an organization, from a personal point of view. But now let's look at leadership from a mental health point of view. In order to be a good leader, it's anger management, it's emotional management, it's your self-confidence, it's a whole load of different things. So I'm going to share with you my story. Started off, I was a business journalist, but my father was a government servant, so we always moved around. He was a diplomat, right? So you can imagine not being able to speak Malay that time, but picking up Japanese, picking up French. When I came back to Malaysia, I can't speak Malay. And that's not good. That's when you come back to your own country, not being able to speak, and you want to call yourself Malaysian. So I was like, hey, Dad, can you put me in UITM? And they were just like, what? Are you sure you're going to survive in UITM? And I was like, it's okay, I want to try. So this first part is about me trying, even though, to be honest, I thought I would fail. And going into an environment where, honestly, I was scared. My parents were still overseas. I didn't have siblings here. It was scary. And then trying to fit in, trying to learn Malay, it was tough. But I took journalism, picked up all the writing, but it was Bahasa Baku. So that time, if I meet my UiTM friends, they're like, oh, you don't speak Bahasa Baku Melayu anymore, right? Yeah, because I learned. I tried to progress. Then I moved on into going to the edge, business writing. Was I familiar with business writing? No, but it's about learning, picking yourself up, and trying to fit into that organization where I was thinking, okay, I'm going to interview these CEOs. I have to be presentable. I have to learn how they speak, learn how they think. That's what I wanted to lift up. But there was also one thing that I neglected. Health, mental health, exercise, all of these things where you're thinking, I'm going to focus on my career all out, but you forget about really living a life. So then after the edge, I was just like, okay, I'm going to do my own business. I'm inspired. I want to be a CEO. I did a food truck. And my parents were like, what are you doing? You have a degree, first class honors, these kind of things. And I was like, no, I want to do a food truck, but I want to do my MBA while I'm doing this food truck. So it's always about constantly learning, having some knowledge, putting it into practice. So when you're a leader as well, what you want to do is, I want this position, but you have to see what are the steps that I need to take in order to learn. Okay, I need this. I need, if I'm going to be a leader, I need to know how to handle this new generation, the current generation, right? Yeah, I need to learn how to multitask. I need to learn how to delegate. Delegate is another very important aspect. If not, you'll be burnt out. So what we, in Plus Vibes, what we also do is corporate workshops, mental health. We support 40,000, alhamdulillah, we support 40,000 people across Malaysia, including those with suicidal ideations, in corporate companies as well. And you won't even believe it. There are so many suicidal people in corporate companies. And the thing is that we don't identify them. We tell the employers, okay, you do have suicidal issues, but this is the issue. And this is how we plan to solve it with the solutions. Workshops, training, mentorship, to create that non-intrusive environment, right? So it's about finding that kind of opportunity. And then you're thinking, okay, so from all this cafe, food truck, doing all these small business, how do you fall into mental health? Yes, I suffered a permanent nerve damage, of which I couldn't move my right. So you'll always see me leaning towards this side. I couldn't move my right arm. So now you're thinking, yeah, personal struggle. But we all have personal struggles, right? If you close your eyes and you think, oh, pop out, that one thing that really hurts you. I got into a bad relationship. So yeah, we're thinking, oh, men. Lucky there's only a few men. But it was a bad relationship. And that time, I think it was more of me chasing my career and wanting to really focus on my PhD that time. And I think I neglected that part of my life, the exercise, the mental health, the being strong, confident of your own self. So I let go of that part. And then that's where I was thinking, okay, I can't move. I can't reach out for help. What am I supposed to do? Again, I fell back to the habit of learning, the habit of trying to grow myself, because it is a habit. You have to build it slowly. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I can create a mobile app. Yeah, okay, mental health. Let's look at it. And then I tried to partner with people, creating that collaborative environment where you have a support system. My family wasn't here, right? So you build friends. You know that if you want to do something, if you want to be a leader, you know who's going to support you. And you help them. So you grow together. And that's where we build Plus Vibes. 2 years now, 40,000 users. So for me, the reviews from those who were suicidal, because at one point, honestly, when I couldn't move my arm at home, I felt suicidal. I was thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And I didn't tell my parents because they were overseas. I didn't want them to worry. So I'm sure some of you, you're thinking, if you went through that kind of phase, now I'm tearing up. When you went through that phase, you're thinking, should I reach out to those who are near me? Should I make them worry? Honestly, my sincere advice is yes. You should share, because they are the real ones who will support you, to motivate you. It gives you a different kind of touch, and that is what will push you forward. So when I told my parents, they came back, they retired, they helped me, but that's what pushed me, you see? From being stuck in that position, you create that whole support system that really allows you to be a leader. So what we feel that in any organization, it's that support system. It's making people believe in themselves, being safe, and really having to know that they have someone to fall back upon. Yeah.
Wow. It's kind of different perspective, isn't it? Do you see the different perspective? I mean, very corporate, right? Then you come to very, okay, the personal and very personal, how she believed in things and what she had to do, and then hers as well, but it's a different kind of a personal thing, right? It's also, ultimately what I see is the drive has to come from within. Do you see that? Because whether it's Natasha's story, I mean, Sreen was very, I mean, from the corporate perspective, but the two of them, very personal stories, right? But very different. But you do see that if it is not from within you, then nothing happens. You know, everything is flowering there. Whether you're questioning yourself, whether this is about, what you want to do, whether when you're going through a depression, right, or confusion, whether you want to stay in this position or not, or you want to do this, but then you have family commitments. So what do? Do you take time off? And when you time off, it's like, am I regressing, right? From the corporate world. And when I go back in, and like what Natasha said, I mean, you feel like you're like a homemaker, and then all your peers have moved on in the corporate field. What do you do? But do we just hang on to all these things and say we can't do it? I mean, they said no to it, right? They said, I'll keep on moving, I will do this. I mean, she was talking about ICU, and even there, she started being creative and doing something, for herself. And they are all where they are today because they just did not give up on their beliefs, on their dreams, and what they wanted to do. So are you hearing, and is our aircon working? Okay. All right, I think it's so much heat in here. All right. Yeah, I know. That's why it went quiet. Serene, this question is going to be for you specifically, that you're passionate about nurturing leaders and empowering women towards their purpose. Why do you think it's important for companies to take an active role in encouraging and inspiring their employees, especially women, towards leadership?
I think that women have so much of resources in us. Yeah, when you place a woman and a man side by side, I actually don't see a lot of difference except for the physical strength. But I tell you, the mental toughness of women, no joke. Yeah, we have the resilience, we have the agility and adaptability. And because we do so many things at the same time, we are also multitaskers. So there's a whole experience and resource there that will be missing if women is not in the equation. And we are not enough out there. Yeah, we may be, there's a lot, I guess in mid-level management, maybe up to senior management, but there's not enough in the senior leadership team as well as the board, representation. So, of course, there are many reasons, like what we have spoken about, right? The sandwich generation, maybe health, various things. And which is why it is so important that companies and organizations help with this process as women make their way through. So I was in HR for the last 17 years. Yeah? And before that, I was an accountant who made the switch to HR. There was like a aha.
Yeah, that's what I was like, huh?
that is part of writing my own ticket. Yeah, and taking my career in my own hands and really understanding what is it that I want. So we hear this thing that organizations do their part, individuals do their part, right? And where organizations can help is, you would have HR policies and so on and so forth, right? That will help with career progression, your performance evaluation, and so on and so forth. Those are the official process, right? Since we are an organization. And those are important process. But then the individual also have to play its part, right? The writing your own ticket, the overcoming, the saying, I want that promotion. I remember I was telling Maddie the story that even though the company that I came from really was very supportive of me, even my boss, my direct boss was very supportive, very nurturing, one of the best immediate manager that I've ever had. But I did not want to be promoted. So the infrastructure is there, but I don't want to be promoted. Why? Because insecure. I don't know whether I can fit that role. And I was only at manager level, mid-level manager. So the promotion is to be a senior manager. And as far as I'm concerned, the philosophy is, titles actually don't say anything much. I need to be able to do the job, and to me, titles is the lowest level of leadership. It's about the influence, it's about the people relationship, and so on and so forth. So that's what I had in mind. No need, I do the job already. And at that time, at mid-level manager, right, I was already I was about 35, looking after 28 countries. 搞了咯. Right, enough lah. Yeah. Why do I want a senior manager role? And what I did not know, and that I realized later, was that I was insecure that when I'm given that title, I cannot keep up to people's expectations. So I kept pushing it away. But there, my boss was keep on wanting to promote me, keep on wanting to nurture, right? And thank goodness for good bosses. They are really gems and hard to find. When you find one, please make sure, that you reciprocate, that you walk and go through that journey together. So she never gave up on me. She was with me for about 4 years. From mid-level to senior manager to director level. Yeah, so, and that is how, as a person and an organization, she represents the best of career progression, the best of leadership to me, because she was a very secure boss. We have heard of women leaders or men who are very insecure. They will not expose you to other people or to senior leadership team. But this boss of mine, hey, please go and present. Go and present. At 35, at just mid-level manager level, I was already exposed to the group CEO, presenting to the group CEO, to the senior leadership team of the group. And it's okay. And she doesn't butt in. 30 minutes of presentation is just me talking. She never butt in. They asked the questions. Of course, I was like, so scared, right? You're like, wow, you prepare all the different scenarios of questions, but that was the practice of resilience, the practice of being able to manage and lead myself, and a good platform to show the stakeholders that I'm okay to be promoted, right? But sometimes we don't feel that way. And that's why the help of our direct manager is so important, our team leaders. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's well said, because sometimes it's the leadership who is trying to promote people under them. The question is whether they themselves are good leaders. Natasha, like you said, I mean, you had there was a boss, but very bad leader, which I think a lot of you agree. Okay. Please say yes, because you do have this is the time you just speak. Nobody's asking you to mention names, but that's the truth, right? Sometimes you do feel that you're doing more stuff and you feel like your person that you are reporting to is kind of redundant in a way, right? Yes, we all do, right? So, but that's what things that we have to address, that well said that you're talking, because we need the leader who is not, scared of people under them coming up, not being insecure. One thing. Another thing is that, have you seen leaders, they want to do everything, like the jack of all trades? Yeah. So then you see everybody under them is very relaxing, lepaking, doing a little bit here and there. But the leader is so overworked and then gets sick. The next thing is whatever depression happens. And so even that person is not good leader, right? So I think it's well said. Thank you, Serene. Thank you for that. Studies show that fewer women have risen through the ranks because of the broken rung at the first step to management positions. What measures can be taken with junior employees to increase women's representation in leadership? Natasha, would you?
I don't know really how to answer that. Because at the end of the day, we can provide the opportunities, the space, but it goes back to what Datin Sri said. How much do you want it? It's all up to us. And I remember sitting at a conference in Leipzig, Germany in 2018. The German government flew me there to speak in a conference, and I had this epiphany, this light bulb moment. And I was telling the audience, like I'm telling you girls now, it's really about how much do you want it. I wanted to extend a bit to what Serene said just now about the fear of rising. I went from one job to one job to one job, and actually all three jobs I didn't know how to do. But I was like, sounds interesting. Sure, I could learn that. And I grabbed it. I grabbed it because it's not rocket science, I could learn it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it, thanks. So I don't know how, and maybe I'll talk a bit about confidence, ladies.
Yes.
I think that the reason that I'm like, sure, I'll take it, I'll do it, it came from one guy. Actually, these three jobs came from one single man. I was with this company. He offered me that job. I didn't report to him, but I reported to the CEO. Then my guy, let's call him my guy, okay? It's easier that way. Then my guy moved here, and my guy said, come with me and be the head of international relations. I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. What do you want me to do again? So I went to become head of international relations in a Malaysian government agency, transport related. It was so fun. He gave me the white canvas. He says, off you go and do this. And I did. I enjoyed it. Then he wasn't renewed, and I was like floating around trying to find my way. And then I was reporting to a new guy. And this other guy was like, oh my God, kill me now. Because he was, God, he had no brains. And I was like dying. And I was like, and this was the epiphany again for me. I was exhausted. I exercise quite regularly every morning, but I was exhausted. So the organization offers me as a senior sort of management free medical every 2 years. So I said, okay, it's time to go. So I went there in the early morning at Pantai Hospital, and the doctor asks me, do you have any concerns? And I said, yes, doctor, I'm very tired. What's wrong with me? Do I have low iron levels? And then he said, okay, let's test. After 3 hours, he says, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. If you are feeling really tired and you're finding it difficult at work, I suggest you start meditating. And then I went home and I told my husband at dinner, I got to quit. Because his boss is driving me nuts. He's draining all my good energy. I'm dying in here. And then we had the very difficult discussion of, can he financially afford me, my husband? Because I would be incomeless, right? And I have commitments. I have commitments. So coincidentally, at that time, my guy came back to me and he says, prepare your CV. So I did, and then off I went for an interview with another organization, and that's where I work now. I work for YTL Construction, which is why I'm building a rail line in Johor.
Oh.
So I became what is now known as a stakeholder director. God knows what that meant at that time, but I made it my own, ladies. I was like, okay. So now what do? I'm in charge of land approvals. We acquire land along 192 kilometers. It's a massive headache, I'll tell you that. That's number one. I'm also in charge of regulatory approvals from state, from the Majlis level, the state government level, and the MOT, Ministry of Transport level. I'm also in charge of comms, public affairs, internal culture transformation. And 2 years ago, my boss came to me and says, can you set up the YTL Learning Academy? And I looked at him. Well, I didn't look at him because it was on the phone, because it was during COVID. I was like, why are you asking me? Why aren't you asking HR? Learning should come under HR. And he says, I've talked to the head of HR. We think you'd be great for that job. And I was like, okay, I did it. So now we have 6 employees in the YTL Learning Academy. We run public programs. We're income generating. And it will be for the first time a profit center for YTL Construction in the history of YTL Construction. So I'm very proud of that. So, ladies, I have a law degree. God knows how I ended up here. But middle rung, going back down to this middle rung management, let my story be a guide for you. You can do anything. Seriously, the question is, do you want it? When an opportunity comes along, do you want to take it? Okay, you have various variables to consider, right? Elderly parents, I do agree to this. Children, I took a step back, but I came back. And I have a friend now, minister. I have friends, head of banks. I have friends, CEOs of public listed companies, CEOs of GLCs. These are all my peers at university. But I'm a firm believer in we run our own race. And we should not be greedy. We should not attempt to push people out of the way to go forward. I don't want to kacau periuk nasi orang. I'm very conscious of that. Yeah. I'm very careful when I have to let staff go as well, for whatever reason. So I really feel that my time is my time. My time is God's time. It is not, in those days, some people say, I want to be a manager before I'm 30. I'm like, okay, I want to be married before I'm 25. Okay, whatever lah, But you can talk all you want, but you will be humbled when it doesn't happen. And you have to understand and realize that you run your own race. So I have a 20-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son. They're in the midst of exams. My daughter is in first-year university studying geography of all things in a university in London, and my son is first year of A-levels. And as they headed into these exams, I had to tell them, I said, look, you're running the Olympic 100-meter race. Don't look left, don't look right. No one looks left or right when they're running their race. Just run, look ahead. Don't be bothered if people overtake you. Just do your best. So you, as an employee here, as a stakeholder in to make sure that your life brings value to the table for yourself, for your family, for your colleagues, actually, how fast do you want to run? Sometimes you have to go slow to go fast. So last year when I was sick, I even felt it this year in January. I had lunch with a friend. She's very, very senior in the ASEAN space. I used to work volunteer for an ASEAN not-for-profit, the ASEAN Business Advisory Council. When I was in 2015 to 2018, I really loved that too. But I had lunch with this lady, and I felt so small again. I felt small because she was going so far, so fast. She was telling me all about what she's doing in the most nicest of ways. But I just felt small again because I felt physically I was still struggling to gain my strength again after I was sick last year. And I knew that I wasn't feeling strong again. I knew I wasn't ready to push as I used to push. So now I'm stronger. Yoga saved my life. Perimenopause, ladies, that's another topic, Datin Sri. Next round.
It is.
Perimenopause has been a real pain in the neck. But now I feel really good and I'm stronger again. And as I sat down here, as I turned off the silent on my phone, I saw a WhatsApp message. I saw that my CEO has signed a memo for something that I've been pushing for women in rail, and he's agreed to sponsor something to the tune of maybe 200,000 ringgit, and he just signed it. And I sat down here, I felt so grateful because now I'm strong and I'm ready to pull off this Women in Rail Malaysia thing again. And I know that whatever I want to do, the stars are all aligned again for me. And I feel good, and I feel brave, and I feel happy, and I feel like I can really conquer that mountain. But it takes time to get there, ladies. And you will get there when you build your confidence. So do things to build your confidence, to give you that strength and courage. Because when you do reach, where you're almost reaching the peak of that mountain, you'll feel like freaking fantastic, I tell you. And when you're at that mountain, or something happened, or some success was reached, and then you feel like, God, that slog was so worth it. And I'm so, like, pat on the back, you know. No one pats you on the back. Yeah, thanks. But you have to do that. You know, you have to. Some women talk to themselves in the morning with their makeup. It's amazing. It's lovely. I do that sometimes.
Thank you. Yeah, so remember I was telling you when we were starting, she was pretty quiet when we were talking in the room. And then she was just observing all of us. I was looking at her and I'm like, maybe I need to say, Natasha, would you like to say something? Because she was quiet. Because I was talking to Serena, I was talking to Manny, and she was quiet. And that's when she said, I think this is all comes to, because I was talking about what we should talk about and the discussion. She goes, I think all this comes down to confidence. Are you confident enough? Do you have what it takes to do whatever you need to do to get where you want to be, not where others want you to be?
Datin Sri, can I just butt in?
Yes.
This is something that I hate to say that I did, but I did. I remember being in my first HOD meeting, head of the department meeting at RYTHM Construction on a Friday. I think this was my first Friday there. And I sat down with all these really tough, strong, verbally aggressive men. I mean, construction industry, you know. Some have been there 30, 40 years.
We know that.
Yeah, with really, really, you know, and I just sat there. I was like, holy shit, what have I signed up for? And then I realized I had to be strong. And I had to project this strength, because if not, these guys will eat me alive. And then I decided, okay, we're going to fake it till we make it. Needless to say, I don't fake it anymore, ladies. I've made it. So I'm feeling, but you know, you can't let anyone see. I couldn't let them see my fear, because when you're in a meeting and someone is trying to offload their work onto you, hello, no way. I remember sitting in a meeting.
No way.
Yeah, I remember sitting in a meeting. I'm YTL Construction. YTL Power CEO is there. I'm doing a event, pecah tanah for him. Then he says, so can the speech come from your side, Natasha? I was like, no. It's YTL Power event. Content comes from you. We can support you in this, but speech must come from you. Anyway, I found out he went to someone else to get the speech organized. But at least he didn't try to push it out of me or my team. Because I have to be very clear, I mark my turf very carefully. I will do my job to the best of my ability with my team fully supporting. But when Malaysians love to Tai Chi, you have to be really strong, and because you have to have that respect. When you say no, you push back, and that costs confidence, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So go back to confidence, ladies. Yeah.
So we're making it light, we're making it fun for you, laughing, but in that, there should be very strong takeaways and there's very strong message, ladies, yeah? I mean, we're not bashing men, yeah, but we can do that, it's all right, because they bash us all the time. I mean, you know, culturally, socially, we are used to it, right? All the bashing, so it's okay. Today you can do a little bit and then we can forget about it because you're not going to carry it, okay? And I'm coming to you, Mary, because I think we have spoken about it a lot during COVID as well. That is so much of mental health, and even in Malaysia, we've heard it's very sad. But we have been talking, so focusing like teenagers and like single mothers during those times. But in terms of also, because you just mentioned that earlier when you were talking about yourself and your journey, that in corporations too, there's a lot of people get to a point of suicidal, but we don't hear it. Now, one part is like, I would like to ask you, what can corporations do as well to get these people who are in that kind of mental conditions to actually come forward? Because they're very scared if they come and speak, then the whole organization is going to know. And then how are they going to look at me? I'm vulnerable or what? Then I can't be, because these are people I work with every day. So what can organizations do to tackle this? Because we need to help these people. So can you tell us what we can do?
So there's 3 parts to it. The first one is support. So first, whether they actually have a support system. The top management, the colleagues, that work culture, whether you actually have that work culture. Are you competitive? Are you fighting against each other? Are you backbiting? Do you actually like each other? And the second is having a safe space. So to what extent, like you mentioned, do they really have a safe space to voice out their concern? So what we do, of course, we have that Plus Vibes mobile application. They actually share on demand. For example, we have, I think in the banking sector, so some of our clients are in the banking sector, they have really high pressure where they have, tight deadlines. The deadlines is not in a week or a month. The tight deadlines is within days. 1-2 days, oh, you have to do this, or auditing, especially, I'm sure you might know in terms of audit as well. So what they need is the moment you get that external pressure, let's say your manager got angry at you, you need that support system then and then. So that's when they go on the app and they actually share, oh, I just kena marah, I don't know what to do, I feel so demotivated, I feel like, I used to be a top student, maybe some of you guys feel like that, I used to be a top student in university. Suddenly when I'm in the working world, I'm not good enough. But that's where you need that support and motivation, where people can say to you, hey, it's okay, because there's always that learning progress. It's where you learn, okay, you take in the good. Of course, perhaps empathetic communication is one workshop that is definitely needed for all, not just managers, including the every single level. Why? Because communicating effectively and empathetically is something that we all need now. And I don't think that's what we were taught, especially in this culture where perhaps even at home, everyone's always like, hey, do this for me, do this for me. You have that tense culture. Maybe even your parents or with your siblings, you're brought up like that. You're brought up, getting angry to ask for things. So you bring it into the workplace. And then, hey, can you do this for me? So some people might feel, they feel hurt from the way that you communicate. But then again, you have to always, always look at it from 2 different parts. That may be how they communicate, but that's not intentionally what they mean. It's never to really personally hurt you. It's perhaps even how they communicate. Yes, everyone does need to improve in terms of empathetic communication, but you always have to look, what is the key point? What is this person trying to do? I'm sure they're trying to help you grow or trying to reach a certain KPI, help you achieve a target. So the first is that support system. Second, safe space. The third is opportunity. Of course, workshops. So what we've done is we've done really small workshops of less than 15 people. We've done around 20 to 30, and then we've done 300. What we found is that people speak when it's in the 20, 30s. When it's too small, they're just like, okay, and they wait. Does anyone else have anything to say? They'll wait until you call upon them. But when it's 20 and 30, they say, oh, this person's speaking. It creates that environment where they feel safe to voice out and bounce off ideas. And then you really create that, hey, it's okay if it's wrong. You know, different people have different perspectives. We all go through different types of backgrounds. So we all have different ideas. But when it's too big, you only see one people. Even though you can see a lot more people, they have questions, but they're afraid to reach out for help. So I think that's that support system, the safe space. I think what we also do is anonymous data analytics. So for example, I'll give you an example of the suicidal individual. The main issue isn't workplace for suicidal, it's personal relationships. I think a lot of people are going through divorce, they have a lot of children, some of their children are unwell, so they themselves feel they're not worthy enough. And that's why they have that suicidal thoughts. It's because they feel, I'm not capable. So I just want to give up, right? Maybe it might ease them, or maybe I won't always feel so terrible about myself. It's about how you look at yourself in the mirror when you wake up. You're always thinking about all your problems. I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this. So every day looking at that negative thoughts, of course, I'm going to share with you 4 stages of depression. The first is negative thinking. It's when you look at yourself and you already don't like who you are. And then the second is you stop doing things that you love. So it's social isolation. So you stop going around meeting your family and friends, which is what I did, right? I stopped seeing my parents. I didn't want to pick up their call, but that was the bad part. And then the third is when you start thinking, oh, maybe if I'm not there, it might be easier for them. And fourth is when you actually do self-harm. So what we do is we detect them when they're already negative thinking. When you start to think negatively, that's when we're like, no, it's okay. It's normal. Everyone goes through this. You have to know that everyone goes through that challenges, but it's always when you go through that challenges, it goes up. Rarely when you go through challenges, it goes down unless you don't have that support system to lift you back up. So don't isolate yourself, always create that safe space. The workshops, I feel, is very important. Not too small, not too big, but just nice where you really get that fun engagement, where they can really learn and voice out. And of course, it's the anonymous support, the data analytics, allowing them to reach out for help without anyone in the organization knowing, because that is key. The first thing they ask, hey, if I share, do my HR know? Are they going to fire me? That's always the first thing they're going to ask. And then, another thing is, am I talking to a bot? Because it's a mobile app, right? So am I talking to a bot? And then, no. Just share, and whatever you share here is done. And then when you end the chat, it's deleted. That's the key to it. So that's what allows people to open up and share, because that's the first step. You have to talk. I know some of you thinking, I do have this problem. Should I reach out for help? The answer is yes. If you're even thinking, I have this problem, reach out for help. Whether you're talking to your friends, your sister, anyone. Because if not, it's like a Coca-Cola bottle, right? You keep on shaking it, left, right, going here, you're going in different environments. One day you're going to explode. It might be on someone else, it might be on your children, your family, your parents, it might be at work, and it's not going to make you feel better. So let it out, open the Coca-Cola bottle bit by bit, share, and get that small support and motivation to allow you to really climb. So I think that's the crux of it.
HR? I think it's important for us to have that safe space. It's important for us to have that app because, so people can actually talk, people can actually open up. I'm not talking just suicidal, but like we said, we all have problems. We all have issues.
Small ones.
Yeah, but if we leave it, then it gets bigger, then it gets to a point that we cannot come back. So I think it is important for us to take note and do something, which is what I asked this question. Okay, I think my people are showing me this, like Joanna is like running this 1 second, 2 second thing, but I think this is really going well. There's one corporate side, there's one that's really fun, and, she's going at it, and then there goes someone who's going to tell us about the mental health, which is very important because, I think the Asian communities, right, we all the more tend to hide the mental well-being. We're just, no, that's like, we shouldn't talk about it, we should keep it in the closet, and, that's not a good thing. That's how we are brought up. Again, it's half the time in ASEAN, it's our societal norms that kills us, ladies. So I think we need to come out of it, then we will flourish. I'm going to ask this last question, and do you have any last thoughts to share about what employers and their people can do symbiotically to shape environments that empower women? Then, okay, that wouldn't be my question exactly, but it's more, all right. Based on our discussion, what would you like to say, Serena? What would you like to see in terms of how the women folk in organizations evolve, in terms of whether it's not just senior positions itself? I think there's so much of, I think I talked to someone about the glass ceiling or the glass lift today, right? Which very much exists. I mean, women like us, okay, we've been through it, okay, we've been through the, excuse my language, the shit. Then we come out of it and we say, we don't give a damn, all right? We are going to go ahead and do what it takes because we want to go out there and make a difference. But not everybody gets to that point. But I want most of these women, we want to see them, achieve their dreams, achieve whatever they want to do in their lives and not get stuck where they are and they're not happy. So what would you like to see, and what would you do to make a change?
I really believe in living an authentic life that is true to yourself. Yeah. So be it different careers or the things that you do and all of that. So we talked about glass ceilings. People come and talk to me about thinking outside the box. The question that I ask them is, where's the box? What is that ceiling? I think I have been really blessed to not have people put a lid on me. Somehow, I don't know, I guess I'm blessed in that way. So I don't know what is this ceiling all about. I don't know what is this box all about. All I know is that I know where I'm going, and I'm going to be the best version of myself. Of course, other people will think that I'm competing with them. Because, when you're doing your stuff, they're like, hey, she's coming out, she's rising up, and all of that, and they might feel insecure, but do your thing. Don't look to the left or to the right. Run straight to the finishing line. Okay, that's the first thing that I would say to look into for individuals, for even organizations who want to help women. Run straight to the line. Don't think about what other organizations' best practice are doing. That's the left and the right. What works for QI? That's the most important thing. And 2 is be very intentional about it. If you want to grow strategic thinking, if you want to grow resilience, it doesn't just fall on your lap. You need to want it and work at it, yeah, and make all your life situations and whatever that has pulled you down be your success story, right? So be it depression. I had depression for 10 years in my 20s, and I overcame it without one single medication. And 1 year later, financial crisis hit my family, and we are in the depths, in the millions. And I was the one shouldering that to pull my family out 10 years. By the time pandemic hit in 2020, it was all over. So I can say I cannot rise up because all of these shackles are pulling me down. I can't rise up. But the journey is an intentional one. I know where I'm heading. and I'm going there at all costs because I'm convicted that that's my authentic life. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say to you.
Powerful. Thank you. Natasha, not the same question, please. I have a different question for you. You were talking earlier about children, how we have to, because a lot of women here are also mothers. Now, you might not be going at the pace you want to go, but that's not what you might want for your children, right? So there's something powerful she said in the room. Can you please talk about how should we raise our boys and girls, or what should we do?
So as you know, I have a daughter and a son, and I never was very conscious about what I was imparting at home. We used to have we still do have good conversations at the dinner table. And when we go out for meals, the kids know that no phones until after dessert. So there was one day, I think my son must have been about 12, 14, and we both hit the bottom of the stairs at the same time, and the stairs was blocked. So actually at that time, only one person can go up at a time. And we bumped each other on the shoulder and couldn't move. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and at the time we were about eye level, same height. And then I'm like, what? And he goes, what? And I said, hello, ladies first. And then he said, what are you talking about? Equality. I was here first. And I said, yeah, I know, but ladies first lah. And he says, what? You're always talking about women's rights and equality. And I thought, my Lord, I've done such a good job that this boy really does not want to be polite and have good manners and let me go first. So, okay, fine, I can't remember who went up first. But I remember at the dinner table talking about this. And then my husband said to him, he said, Aiden, have you heard of chivalry? Good manners, I said. You didn't show good manners. He said, yeah, but it's equality, right? You always want equal rights. And I was there first. So I thought, okay, this is it. This is what I was telling Datin Sri. It's not how we raise our daughters. It's how we raise our sons. Because if we can raise good sons to be good people in the workplace, then they will give other women in the workplace an easier time than what we are facing today. So whilst I've worked really hard to give my daughter opportunities and open doors, I took my daughter for her first business dinner. Can't remember what year, but she was 12. She had just finished her UPSR, and her grandma won an award, an ASEAN award, and I was organizing that dinner. And I said, okay, Laura, come. So I can't remember where she got her baju from, but okay, she looked pretty decent, and her hair was nice and all that. And it was her first dinner, 12. And then a couple of years later, we got an invitation to go to Women of the Future Award, ASEAN, by the former British High Commissioner to Malaysia. I had lunch with her, Vicky Trudell, and she says, can you come to Singapore for the awards night? And I said, I can try. And she says, bring your daughter. So I brought my daughter because Laura had attended the Kuala Lumpur dinner when Laura was 14. Laura must have been 16 in Singapore when she came with me. And when she was 15, 16, I took her with me to Fukuoka in Japan to a high-speed rail conference. I spoke to the organizers. I said, I'm bringing her with me. We're having a girls' trip. Can she attend the conference as well? And the organizer said, sure. She sat in the most interesting sessions, and when she wasn't in the session, she was upstairs doing her AdMats in the hotel room. But I opened doors for her. And she's a wonderful, okay, I'm biased, but she's a wonderful young lady today. She's full of confidence. She's embracing life so excitedly. And I feel so excited for her and the future that is open for her. But it is my son, who is now going to be 18 this year, who I feel most excited for. Because I think he's going to be, hopefully, one of those men who will open the doors to women, who will believe that women deserve to be in the workplace. I was telling Datin Sri just now in the holding room how Aiden asked me one day as a primary school boy, Mummy, why doesn't Auntie Farah work? Because to him, it was normal to work. He only knew women who work because all my friends work. One or two don't work. And he found it strange that Auntie Farah didn't work. So I can't remember what I said, but I remember thinking, wow, he's accepting that women's place is in the workplace. And I thought that was really telling because it allows me to have hope. And I really want young boys to understand that they have to respect us. In the meeting room, they have to respect us. There can be no snide remarks about what we wear. Do you have your period today? Is that why you lost your temper? And I've had someone ask me that question. Because and I was like, hello. So I just feel I don't want that for my daughter. And it's so important, ladies, that when you consciously raise your daughters, if you have sons, please remember this, to raise your sons full of respect for women and the challenges we face and the balls that we juggle and the pressures that we have financially to contribute, the physical strain we have every day. Most of us just fall into bed at the end of the day. And honestly, sometimes the husband will say, anything happening tonight? You're like, good God, save me. But this is life, you know? This is life. So, let's raise our boys to be even better than the girls we are raising ourselves. Okay.
Nice one. Before I go to Maddie, Natasha, you mentioned something else. We also have a lot of girls who are not married here and looking for their husbands. Do you have anything to say, please?
Yeah, girls. Make sure, for those of you who are single, and I've spoken in schools before for women in Real Malaysia, and I always tell the girls, primary school girls even, I tell, find a good boyfriend. But for all you ladies here also, find a good husband. I had a colleague who came to me one day and she says, you know what, I went home, I told my husband I got promoted, and she said that her husband said, why do you always get all the luck? She's still with him. They have huge fights. Sometimes they don't sleep together for months. He's in the guest room. But my point here is that if you are still single and you still have the chance to choose a good man, find yourself a good man who will not need you to be small so he can feel big.
Yes. Thank you. Maddie, floor is all yours now.
Wow.
What is it that you want take away for these women? I mean, also coming from, championing mental health as well. Because in any form, feeling like what even Natasha said in their relationships, that they're feeling small, that not being able to move, right? And they might be, even in their positions wherever they are kind of frustrated because with their bosses or they do most of the work, but the accolades go to the bosses, as you know, because they are doing everything behind the scenes. Now, what would your advice be to these women?
How many of you actually have a plan where you want to be? Or is it that you live day by day? Like, okay, I'm just going to live the next day, then the next day. Okay, the next thing that happens, okay, let's do that. How many of you actually have a plan where, okay, in this 1 year, this is what I'm going to achieve. These are the KPIs I'm going to hit. This is the personal KPI that I want to hit. The next year, this is where I want to be. And then I want to be here. And then I want to get married. I want this, this, this. How many of you actually know what is it that you want and plan how you're going to reach there? Because I think there's most cases where people are like, oh, I wish I had that life. I wish I was there. I wish this, this, this. You can. But it's a matter of if, okay, your dream is here. And maybe you would assess yourself, okay, maybe I'm somewhere here, or maybe even lower. It depends how negatively you talk about yourself. But it might be down here. You're thinking, oh, so high. But it's not about how high you want to go. It's more about the time that you're going to take to invest in yourself. Always remember that, okay, for example, now I'm doing UX, UI, designing the whole app from A to Z. My background was journalism, you see? So it's not impossible. And I learned on YouTube, and then I was thinking, what is this? And I was like, okay, actually, can I get my tech guys? Can you just do it in front of me? I want to see. So some people learn differently. It might be through YouTube, it might be through reading and writing, it might be by seeing other people do it and then practicing it yourself. But always have that plan where I want to be here. And you know deep down you can achieve it. Because sometimes you're thinking, when am I going to do that? Or if I can even. Don't go day by day just living your life just like that, just doing nothing and thinking like I have no plan, I'm just going to go to work, come back, okay, maybe meet up friends. You know, you're not thinking, oh, I want to be here, right? Because that's when you start questioning and you start feeling the word stuck. I feel stuck. I'm doing the same thing all the time. Okay, maybe if you switch jobs, you'll still be doing the same thing all the time. But what is it that you really want? You have to have that goal. Say one day, I want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, but even where you are today plays a big role in you becoming an entrepreneur. The connections, your leadership skills, your communication, your marketing, picking up all these small skills as a leader. You have to believe that nothing is, it's not limitless. You want to achieve something, you can. It's a matter of, like Natasha said, how much you want it and what is your plan. It's like, okay, I want this, but now you have to plan out. Whether it's improving your education, taking certifications, upskilling yourself, meeting the right people, going to networking events. You see, these are all planned. These are strategic things that you actually put in place so that you can reach that goal. So always have that plan. So now you're going to go back and thinking, what is it that I want to be in 5-10 years? Plan that, because you can achieve it.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Now, before Joanna jumps at me again, the floor is open for questions. Now, if you want to specifically ask one of them, then you can mention their name and then, say what the question is, or you can just shoot it to any of them, and then they will answer from their perspective. Who is?
Hello, hi. Is it on? You guys can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning. Good afternoon. I was so inspired.
No need to be nervous. It's okay.
Thank you, Datin Sri, for this opportunity, and I really hope that we'll have more sessions this kind. But I got a question it's an open question. Yes, the world has made a great stride toward making better, empowering women. Yet, still women need to work hard to prove themselves or get a better opportunity in workplace, even now. Why is that so? Any opinion?
Who's going to go first?
I think
I like that.
I can attempt.
Sure, thank you.
Why is that? Why do we still feel that we need to work really hard, right?
To prove them.
To prove ourselves. Can I also say that sometimes it's the way that we are being brought up and our environment that could have played a part in us conditioning ourselves. Yeah. So we all know, right, that where we come from, our background and stuff like that, it really plays a role. How our parents treat us, what position are we in our families, and all of that really form that whole identity part of us. Yeah, that carries on in the workplace, and sometimes there may not even be a limitation. Okay, it can be a perceived limitation. Like, for example, I was also in a room full of men. When I was in manager level, I walked in there, I did not realize it until the end of the meeting, that they were all men, and I was the only woman. I guess it's also the environment that has allowed for that little diversity to happen, which was me. I think the workplace also dances with you, meaning if you feel insecure, people will catch it, right? They will catch it, they say, hey, this lady, I think we can bully her a bit, no? I don't know, maybe I didn't portray that I can be bullyable. I just walk in, do my thing, tell them what needs to get done, and this is how you can get it done, how I can support you, and they're like, okay, I think I can, I think I can buy this. So it was not, there was no question of gender in there. So it was also because they didn't feel like they did not feel that I'm small. And that was what some of the leaders told me, that the way I portray myself is one of confidence, but not arrogance, because there is a difference. Yeah, and we all know people who are arrogant, both men and women, and people don't like them, right? So when we talk about confidence, it's bringing what you know and what you can do on the table on equal par. Of course, if people start trying to bully you and all of that, you also need to know how to deflect that. And that's called stakeholder management. Navigating the murky waters of your stakeholders, which as you rise up through the ranks, you learn. And you learn from all sorts of people and by observation. So, yes, there are things that cause us to feel a certain way, and how come we have to work doubly hard and all of that, but there is always two sides of the story, I feel. Yeah? I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to add to that. Another thing that I personally feel is that we always feel like, oh, I need to have this credentials and I'm going to need to show all this KPI. Okay, I'm good enough. You know, that's why we work so hard. Because even for me, in order to build my career, in order to meet the network that I meet, I need to prove myself. And then only I feel like I'm worthy enough to be in that circle, but actually it's not so. It's even, I think there's statistics that show that, okay, women have all these 8 out of 10 capabilities, and men probably only have 5 or 4. But who's willing to go for it first? Probably men, right? But that's why we work so hard to build up our credentials, our capability, our KPIs, so we can prove ourselves. But actually, I think the focus is that, confidence. Even if you just have 5, you have to believe that you can learn the other 5. So just go all out at it, right? So just like you, I think it was pretty, you knew you were going to be the first person to ask a question, but it was going all, and you're thinking like, I have to be confident. So congratulations for that.
Yes, Charlene?
Oh, sorry. Got to why I'm nervous. Okay. Hi, I'm Elsie from QVI. It's a pleasure to be here and to hear from great, powerful women like you ladies here. So my question here is, when men stand up for themselves, no one really bats an eyelid. But when women do the same, they are sometimes perceived as dramatic, overreacting, or in other negative ways. So what's your advice on how women can confront gender bias in the workplace for a positive outcome? Thank you.
Natasha?
I guess it's like what Serene said, just be authentic. Just be yourself. I try really hard not to be high-pitched, really, and I don't scream or shout. I don't want to give them more bullets to shoot me. So in order to do my job well, I need to know my stuff so that I can handle anything that's thrown at me. So before I go into any meeting, I'm prepared. And I know what my objective is. And I can be in a meeting and I don't know the answer, and I will simply say, let me come back to you. And straight away I'll get on my phone and I'll message the right person and say, what's happening here? And then I'll have the answer, and then when there's a lull in the conversation, I'll say, okay, I've got that answer that you need, and this is it. So there's no shame in admitting that you don't know, But to me, I think there is shame if you don't handle yourself correctly.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. There's something that I would like to say is when you go in to handle a situation, don't get emotional. Stick to the point, the facts, because leave the emotions at the door and go in. Because when we get the emotions to cloud, that's when we basically lose ourselves. And I think you don't want to do that, because you're not going in there to see your sister or brother, right? You're just going there to talk to your boss and sort out whatever the issue is. So why do we want to get emotional? So you just have to be your like what they're saying. I think I agree. Yeah.
Can I also add to that?
Yes.
I give you an example of what I have gone through when I was much younger, in my 20s, as a consultant. I had a colleague who was much older than me and male. Much older, yeah? We're talking about 20 to 30 years older. And then you have this smart-ass girl who is a project manager trying to pool resources and telling people what to do. And that's what project managers do. But obviously, it didn't go down well, yeah, with this person. And one day I got an email saying, like literally just a one line that says, "Who are you, a nimwit, telling me what to do in my station of life?" And I think I was maybe 27, 28. So if you ask, what does a 27, 28-year-old girl know how to navigate this, right? So the part about carrying yourself, of course I can get emotional about it. I can stand up, I can go to his cubicle and just scold him or whatever, lah, cry and stuff like that. But there are proper responses, of course. How did you respond? How did I respond? So when I look at that, I tell myself, let's go have lunch first. Leave it. Go have lunch first. Lunch and all of that. The person is not in office, lah, okay? Lunch first and all of that, came back, and I look at the email again. Okay. So, like this, then that's how I started learning stakeholder management. That I don't have to do it all by myself. Why do I need to be the one to fire the gun, so to speak, lah, okay? So what I did is that, this is definitely not a proper email, yeah, from a very much older colleague to a younger colleague, and from a male to a female. It's not even about gender anymore. It's just not respectful. So I decided to actually forward this particular email to my boss's boss as well, because we are quite in close working relationship. Yeah, and say, I got this email, how do I handle it? I wanted to do this, but it may not be the right thing to do. And then we sat down and we have a conversation about it. And that's how we resolve it. So it doesn't have to be like, wow, react at that time. Yeah. But sometimes, of course, you get riled up and all of that, right? But make sure you calm down. Yeah, carry yourself. No matter how old you are, carry yourself. Yeah?
Well done. So true.
Well, thank you once again, Datin Sri, for conducting this session. That's been indeed very insightful. So back to the question. Ladies, based on your experience, how are the female-led companies different from male-dominated organizations? And what do you think women bring to the table in leadership that sets them apart from their male counterparts?
I think I can take that one. From the experience of, I think you can see a lot of powerful women in Maybank, BSN, I think Asiata, E.co even. They have a lot of powerful women. And I think what's different is, and of course, QI, I'm sure you guys know Datin Sri, right? You can see how they lead with empathy as well. They really do care about the team, the colleagues. I think that's a key point there. Why? Because when you think about, okay, I'm in this organization. Yes, I'm working for this organization, but what is it? How can I grow? And that's when you have a woman leader to really share, connect with you and share the experiences, really motivate you and make you feel more part of a family compared to men. Men will have their boys club, you know, they'll have their boy elite members or whatever. And that's where you think like, hey, do I actually belong in that place? Can I be part of that one day? And you're thinking, maybe not. But women are more inclusive in that sense. And that's where you look about the word inclusive. They see people for who they are. I think I think you can search her up, Aziata's Oli. She handles HR in Aziata, and I think what her initiatives are, especially when she leads her team, is impeccable. She does a lot of these workshops, she does these trainings, these small, even group training centers. It's really different, and it's not exclusive to women. It's also for men as well. So that's where you can see empathy is a key factor in how women lead. Yeah.
No? Yeah, more questions?
Hi. Okay. So, hi. This is open to all the panelists. Okay, anyone is fine. In a professional setting, was there ever a moment where you felt there's the opposite of empowerment? All right. So how do you go about it? How do you resolve that?
I never felt that. Maybe it happened, but maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe the optimist in me, the positive side of me just felt. No, but also I've had all my bosses have been male. And I've been very lucky because they've always opened doors and had no hang-ups about me going forward. But I'm the exception, I would imagine. And if there are situations where that has happened, no, let me correct myself. When I was at that place with that boss which I had, which wasn't very intelligent, and then I felt he put me in a little tiny box. And that's when physically my body reacted. And that's when I knew I had to sidestep to move up. So if you can change the environment that you're in and whether your HR is supportive of maybe, I don't know, a vertical, lateral transfer, what have you, that would be helpful. But nothing is worth it if you aren't achieving your full potential. And if you aren't, you need to find a way to do so. I'm not encouraging you to resign or whatever, but I'm just saying that, you know, it must be very, very difficult. But I think a lot of self-introspection as well. Are you doing something wrong? Could you manage it differently, better? You know, Serene, you were very lucky. Your two bosses were willing to come to the table and discuss it in an honest and transparent way. One might have said, "Alah, just ignore it." That would have killed your spirit, you know. So it's different for everyone, and your surroundings are different. But I don't know. It's a very difficult decision. They're very difficult to explain. Also, would you like to add?
I think what you're looking at is demotivation, right? Instead of feeling empowered, you feel demotivated, right? I think it's all about when you compare yourself with other people. It's the expectation that you put for yourself. When we put an expectation that is so high, yes, you can achieve it, but it also takes time. So I think what you should have is the patience that, of course, there is that goal that you want to reach, but of course it has time, you need the support system. There are a lot of other components that will allow you to achieve that. But if you do feel demotivated, the best thing is to not even think about work, is to go live life. Do what you like to do, whether it's hiking, whether it's karaokeing, really feel that life back in you by doing non-work things. And that's where you get that spirit up. So when you have that kind of vibe, that positive vibe in you, even though it's not work-related, when you go to work, you'll bring that vibe, that positive vibe. So you'll be more open to accept all these other comments or perhaps viewpoints of other people. Why? Because you're already in this shield of positivity, right? Because you brought it from elsewhere. So when you enter the workplace and you're thinking like, yeah, okay. So instead of seeing it from a negative point of view, when someone says something, you're already feeling negative. You talk to your mirror in the mirror just now in the morning, negative. Then you come into the workplace, someone said something negative, you will explode, right? So always try to pull yourself out of that position. Do something fun, do something exciting, eat desserts, try something new, you know? You always have to, don't go into the norm, like, okay, I'm gonna go to my favorite cafe. Go to something different, try something new. And that's where you get inspired, spark, you know? You get that positive vibe back in your life, yeah.
I think another perspective is also that if you love what you're doing and you are in that space, then don't allow any individual to spoil it for you. You know, because we can keep moving jobs, but that's not going to satisfy unless you as a person change, right? So we can keep going, you know, from one job to another thinking, okay, this might be better, the other one might be better, but where you are now, are you happy that you can contribute in that sense? So if somebody else is making you feel miserable, don't allow it, because it's not worth it. Questions? More questions? Come on. We have best panel here. You better start asking all your questions. Yes, go
Hi,
ahead.
good evening. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Datin Sri. Good evening, everyone. Following up on the question that one of them was asking just now about being in an environment where it's demotivating or demoralizing and all that. And sometimes some people feel that even with that environment there, it's like that. But they feel like it's difficult, like you're mentioning that you can make yourself happy and all that, but sometimes some people feel like it's not empowering them enough to be able to be what they want to be, or they want to be able to smile every day because it's already putting them down, their emotions, their energy and everything, even though they have tried to make their small little circle or environment happy, or try to make it as positive as possible. Sometimes it doesn't work for them. So how do women try to empower themselves in that aspect, in being in that kind of environment?
Well,
Okay, have you heard this quote? When a flower doesn't bloom, what do you change? Come on, I'm sure you must have seen it. When a flower doesn't bloom, what is it that you change? Yeah, you change the environment, whether it's the sun, it's the water, it's the soil. Doesn't mean the whole entire place, but perhaps it's new people in your life. Perhaps it's a change, a shift in, perhaps you're in the finance department, you want to try something new, go into the event department. Try to shift your position, try to learn new skills. You always have to remember that there's some part of your life that needs a little bit of tweaking in order for you to bloom. I think that's what it is. I mean, yes, you can be the flower, you'll be like, I want to bloom. But there's one part that you might need to fix, whether it's a job shift, whether it's meeting new people, there has to be something.
I can add to that. So because I run engagement surveys, as a HR person, I don't know whether engagement surveys are run here and all of that. And from there, we get a lot of data, right? And of course, data means it tells us where are the disengagements. I would say that from a lot of the conversations that we've been having with employees, we found out that they actually don't talk to their bosses or their teams openly about what is making them disengaged. It's always kept there and always expecting that someone will know. But actually, they won't. They might have some assumption that I think she's not happy, or he's not, he's not motivated, but they don't know. So I think the role that we play needs to be that we rise up in courage to have that conversation. So I had a conversation with my boss. This is one, and I felt the disengagement, the demotivation, because I'm like, how come every decision I make, right, is like you want to have a say in it, you want to check this, you want to check that, and it has never happened before. Yeah, and this is a new person, yeah, that I started reporting to, and it's been 1 year since I worked with this person. So I'm disengaged, man. I'm not empowered to make those decisions. They're not big, huge ones. So I had a conversation, and I asked a point-blank question, because he showed me he can take it, lah. So if you can take it, then I also take you at that, lah. And I say, I sense and I notice that you don't really trust me. Is what I'm feeling correct? You know, and then we had that conversation about me feeling disempowered. And it was a mature conversation. Throughout our career, I believe that we need to really learn how to have conversations, because that can actually solve a lot of issues and challenges. The assumptions shouldn't be the thing that prevail. Yeah. So after doing all of this, talking to various people, trying out and all of that, and if all else fails, you might know that you probably may not be a good fit. But I always also believe that wherever I am, in whichever organization, there is a purpose for me to be there. So the sense of purpose is strong. Am I the one to actually make a change here? Because some of us are put in positions of change. In your organization, you yourself may not know it, but some positions are very clearly change positions. You are put there to make a change. And you're not meant to blend in, you're meant to rise up and lead others. So what is your sense of purpose? Why are you there? If you're able to dig deep and answer that question, then maybe that whole disengagement thing can turn around in a different way. Yeah, so that's how I looked at it from every organization that I go. Why am I here? What is the higher purpose that I'm here for, other than just do my job? Yeah.
Any more questions? Oh, yes, there.
Me. Okay, Maddie, this is for you. And it's interesting that you mentioned about the workplace environment, and also for your programs that you have to help people that are in need and they cannot speak up for themselves. So we used to have this program called Naluri in HR. They did this program, but because the amount of people that came forward for it, they actually stopped it at one point. But actually, that few people that really needs the help, or a conversation or advice from outside, which like you said, they don't want to engage and let people know they're into this crisis because of probably people will say something behind their back, or even their boss will say, okay, this girl is not right, or this guy is not right for the organization, she's having these problems. So like I would appreciate, if HR, we bring back the program again, because I've been approached personally by some people, some colleagues, they've been asking me why the program was shut down, and then I was just told that because it's a minority, probably that's why they don't want to continue. But it does help a lot, it does. Thank you.
I know you're putting the Medi, but because it's QI, but you're probably not going to say anything. So I'm going to say it. I think, Ms. Boy, let's take note of it. I think these are some of the things which are positive that's coming out of this discussion. And I think thank you once again for bringing it up very boldly, by the way. I really do appreciate. And let's bring it up, because if it's been helping them and, and for their well-being, why not? Let's listen to them and bring it back, yeah? Thank you so much. Thank you. Anybody else for any other question, maybe? Who's that? Oh.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for organizing this talk. Last question, I'll make it really short and simple. So this just doesn't apply to our male colleagues, but also female colleagues as well, anyone in the workplace. How can we actually combat to nasty remarks like, why do you look so sad? You just broke up or something? Or why are you so upset? Did you not have your lunch? Or yeah, like something that you guys mentioned, are you on PMS? So how do we combat this in a very professional way? Thank you.
We were just talking about it in the room. Yeah, this is an age-old tradition. Okay. Maybe you can entertain us, Natasha.
I'm not usually very polite when comments like that come. Yeah. Sometimes when comments like that come also, I am stunned. And I'm rarely at a loss for words, but when I'm at a loss for words, that means I'm really stunned. So sometimes also those comments don't come from at the workplace. Nasty comments can also come from family members who hurt you. And sometimes you might have a good relationship with that person and you can comment, rebut, but sometimes you want to nurture that relationship. Say it could be a mother-in-law. It could be, no, I mean, I'm serious, right? I mean, it could be someone like that where you have to be very careful what you say, because you say one thing, it could have 6 months, 12-month repercussion. So, as I said, sometimes if it really hurts, I'm stunned. And maybe I'll talk to some people to try to analyze, actually, what's the motive behind that? Did I do something wrong? When I was younger, I would be argumentative. But I guess now that I'm older, I just want to keep the peace. Sometimes I feel like maybe if I swallow it, it would go away. But some people are just inherently nasty. And I think maybe it might be easier to address nastiness at the workplace than it would be personally. I mean, if it's your husband or whatever, and you can say to him honestly, dude, you can't talk like that to me anymore, please. I don't appreciate it. Please stop it. But if it's someone else where it's difficult, you might have women sometimes have difficult relationships with their mothers. Mothers-in-law, most likely, but mothers sometimes as well. And you don't want to hurt your mother, especially if they're much older, you know, these sorts of things. So I guess now at this age that I'm at, I keep it in because actually I just want to keep the peace. But at the workplace, there has to be those tough conversations. You've given some very good examples of how to navigate those waters. Might need a third party to think. We haven't discussed sexual harassment. I want to just say one thing here. I was in a baju kurung in the lift going to lunch, and I had a HOD, I had his colleague, and I had a buddy of mine here. And the HOD says to me, I really like your baju kurung. Women in baju kurung turn me on. And I was stunned. That's one of the times where I was speechless. And then the fella got out. I got out to go to my car, and I looked at my buddy who was a male, and I said, what was that? What was that? And then my buddy's trying to be diplomatic, I guess, but he didn't make me feel better. And then I went home. My husband was coming home late that night. I didn't see him before I went to bed, but I happened to mention it in passing. He didn't say anything. The next morning, I woke up to go to work, and because my husband had come home late, he was sleeping in. But when I said goodbye to him, he woke up. He said, what was this conversation again? He was very stern. He was very firm. And I felt a bit silly for having conveyed it to him. But I repeated what had happened, and he was rightfully upset. And at that time, he knew my CEO. I reported to the CEO. He knew my CEO from other work. And he says, I want you to go to work, and I want you to tell CEO what happened. Because if you don't tell him, I will. I'll call him myself. So you better tell the CEO what he said. I was like, oh, geez, I don't want conflict. I don't want any of that. But I've summoned the courage to talk to my CEO. I said, look, this is what happened. My husband is upset. And he told me if I didn't tell you, he's going to call you himself. And my CEO was kind. He took it seriously. And he said, go and talk to HR. And we managed it at the HR side, you know. There was, I don't know, an email that went out, blah, blah, blah. But what I did was I went to the HOD. I summoned the courage to go to this HOD. I was a senior manager, he was a GM. And I sat down and I said, you know, you really upset me when you said that. You may not realize what you said. And immediately he apologized. There was no ill intention. Sometimes people talk without thinking. We are all guilty of that. But I said to him something that I will never forget. I said, I had the courage to come and talk to you. I don't report to you. But if you say the same thing to women who report to you, you will have a problem. Because one day you're going to get called up, you're going to have a DI on you, you're going to have issues. I don't know if he continued to say stuff like that to women who reported to him. He is now a very senior official in the Ministry of Transport. I saw him the other day at my open house. I was wearing a baju kurung. Anyway, he was very polite. So ladies, we didn't discuss this, another topic for another day.
Yes.
But sometimes you don't want to say anything, but sometimes the situation requires it. It is up to us through a confidence level that we will have to develop as we grow up and grow older, how you convey it in the most tactful way, in the most perhaps unemotional way, so that we can get a good outcome for our benefit and for that person's benefit.
Agreed. Ms. Boy, since you are the HR person here, I think some of these comments, I don't know about the other organizations, but I want that to stop in QI. I don't care if they want to say that, they can go home and say it to their families, which have no consequences for us in this organization, but I do not want them to say it to their co-staff. So can we do something about it, please? Thank you. Ramya, you have a question?
So I work with some really intelligent, very smart, very capable women. But what happens is sometimes I find that they are hesitant to speak up. They're hesitant to take on more responsibility. And a lot of it, I realize, is also deeply rooted in cultural conditioning. So how do you fight centuries of patriarchy and get people to overcome these deeply rooted beliefs, self-limiting beliefs?
You can't change them, but you can change you. You can change how you perceive it, you can change how you react to it, and you can try to influence your colleagues, the people who report to you, or your children. I don't want to force people, I mean, we'd like to force, but you can't. And this is something that was said just now, about how you do your mind conditioning. You can't really fight what has been so intrinsically entrenched. Datin Sri mentioned second-generational conscious bias.
Second-generation gender bias. Datin Sri and I were talking about it before this.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's, and I try to tell my staff, sometimes they come to me, oh, I'm very angry with this, you know, can you go and talk to so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I'll tell them, no, this is a battle I cannot win. Maybe that's a cowardly way for me, but I want to be able to deliver. And there's some things, sometimes I feel like some things are worth fighting for and achieving the outcome for the greater good. But some things where I know I cannot secure, I will not push too hard because I will fail. Or I will knock my head against the wall and it'll take a lot of knocking before I get through. I need to weigh up what battles can win with the least amount of energy to make sure that I have the strength and positive energy to walk the marathon that I have to walk every day. So it is a decision that comes with me, that rests with me like, okay, which one can I win today? Which one can I win for the longer term? That is a decision that leaders take every day. So sometimes you will think that you can do this way, but there are some things, like I work in an organization in YTL, I have colleagues who have been there for more than 40 years. We have a wall of fame for those who have worked for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. There's more than 200 people up there. So they are old-timers. And I don't expect some people to change at that elderly age. So I know, it's like, how do you get your mom who's been like doing something for so long, and then you ask her to change? She's not going to change. So I feel, okay, how do I change, pivot myself to have a better mindset, to be able to manage the surroundings for the greater good and the best possible outcome. I don't know if that's a cop-out or a cheat way, but that is how I manage.
But when it comes to something like second-generation gender bias, a lot of it is based on stereotypes that have just become the accepted norm. Isn't it important to call them out?
Yeah, you can call them out, but don't expect them to change.
See, that's where the challenge lies.
Yeah. So like, for example, I'll give you a good example. I was breastfeeding. I breastfed my daughter for 17 months, my son for 26 months. I was a stay-at-home mom. I can't lie. I don't have to go back to work. But my mother-in-law did not support that. She felt, oh, bottle feed. You know, so it's that conscious, no, it was a second-generational gender bias. But it's her bias. It's a bias that was intrinsic in her. So I could argue with her at every moment she sees me put the baby to the breast, or I could just ignore it and try very hard to keep positive and say, you're doing the right thing, breast is best, whatever shit that went in my head, to keep reminding myself that I'm on the right path. Because I know I can't change an old lady, and I don't want to keep knocking my head against that wall. So like I said, I pick and choose my battles.
Any other perspectives?
I agree on the choosing of battles. I agree with that. I also think that, in a way, I'm a natural fighter all my life. Don't know whether there's such a thing, okay? Natural fighter all my life, meaning even at home, even though I'm the eldest, of 3 other siblings, 2 of them are boys, I learned that leadership and that respect is to be earned. It's not just because I'm the eldest sibling, I can bulldoze everyone. That I learned quite early in my life, in my family life. So I think it's the realization like that I was able to strategize how to helm my siblings and able to lead them in that sense. Not just, I'm the elder one, you need to follow what I say, but that whole, I guess, building of relationship and, I don't call it fear, it's respect. I would like to see it that way. So that naturally transported into the workplace. I don't know, maybe I've got a face that people think I shouldn't mess with her. I don't know. Younger, maybe I was this very naive, long hair, straight long hair lady, who don't know much and all of that. But I think I have also learned to have a lot of this confrontation or crucial conversations with people that surprises them. So that you actually turn them back on their game. You know what I mean? They don't expect you to actually walk up to them and talk to them nicely and still can talk to them afterwards. It's not like we stop talking to each other and all of that. So that practice every day, practice of choosing battles, of talking, of gathering respect, and all of that, it paid off. But it was an entire lifetime of doing that. So it definitely didn't happen overnight, that whole generation thing. So which is why today I don't feel that in my family. I don't feel like just because I'm a female, right, I have lesser standing. No. In fact, it is the other way around. And they will come to me, my siblings, to say, what do you think of this? I'm going to do this. How do I approach this? And, stuff like that. And at work, it's also somewhat along those lines. But it is an everyday practice of going through the very humbling motion of talking to people, of coming to some consensus, etc. And they know that you are for them. You're not against them. Yeah, so that to me made a whole lot of difference. It's a whole lifetime of walking.
Basically, keep fighting the good fight.
Keep fighting the good fight, but please choose your battles wisely. Sometimes you got to wait to fight it in 1 week's time, not now. But it is all about strategy.
Thank you.
That's it, Joanna. I know you've been walking up and down. Okay. Yes, Lata. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.